Hello friends, here I am in the woods next to my house, which is behind me. Maybe you can see it somewhere. And this is what I do every morning. I take my dog for a morning walk, and I'm going to take you on this walk with me just now, and I'm going to talk for a minute. We're about to go to my friend's lake. We're going to go kayaking and bring some tubes. So this is what I'm wearing. And this is where I go every morning, and there's some streams here. There's another one back there. My dog's running around somewhere. We always put on cedar side to prevent ticks. So it's a beautiful little ritual I have with Dora. But I wanted to also just reflect on last night and the New Earth Collective gathering that I helped facilitate with this wonderful New Earth Collective member, Alice Rogers, and who is an end-of-life doula. And so in the gathering, we talked about death and what it means to die and go through the process of dying and what that's like for a dying person, what it's like for the family. And we talked about so many different things that were really fascinating. And we could have talked for, I think, hours, because there's so many different layers to it. One is, why is it so awkward when, I've been around dying people, let me say, so I know this. Why is it awkward when about this experience of dying? Is it because we have no idea how to process it, and no one's ever taught us how to talk about death, and it's something that we've all feared and is just scary? Because this is a real thing that people are, and we're seeing this so much more in the past few years, as souls that choose to exit the earth plane. And yes, it is a choice that we made pre-incarnation when we're going to die, that it's all planned. We know the time of our death and how we're going to die. It's in our soul contract. So we can fight it. And of course, no one wants anyone to die. We want to prevent death as much as possible and preserve human life as much as possible. But it's a natural part of living. When we're done with our bodies, we're done. And we finally get to go home. And in life, between life regressions that I've experienced and that I do for people, it's a beautiful release. It's like, finally, we're done. And we can go back to ourselves in spirit realm. We can see our soul family. We meet with our spirit guides. We connect with the council of elders who help us reflect on our lives. This is the stream that I love to just do yoga in front of and meditate in front of. So beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to take you to the next stream. There's a few. But in our culture, it's something that, we don't talk about that actually it's, how can we honor a life well lived and celebrate when somebody, especially, this only kind of works if the person knows they're dying, if they're sick or something. If for sudden death, an accident or something like that, we can't prepare for that, which is also part of the soul contract. We don't need to do that at a higher level. But when we do have that opportunity, how can we talk with the person and just honor and celebrate? I recently went to memorial service, and my parents' friend's wife and the husband, who's a survivor, when I was talking to him about it, he said, just tell me memories of her. What did you remember about her and love about her? And I did, and we were laughing and just sharing memories, and that's what he wanted to do. It didn't need to be this, oh, I'm so sorry, it's so horrible, everything's awful. Of course there is that, he misses her, and that person's not with us any longer. It's interesting, in the gathering, we were talking about staying with the body for a few days after, a soul has left the body, because then you can really be and process that this person is not in their body any longer, and it helps us kind of integrate it a little bit more. So there's so many layers to grief, to what happens when a soul leaves a body. And we talked about, there's sometimes, when we do leave our bodies, and I've seen this in regressions, and she actually was talking about how she felt it energetically with when she was with people as they were crossing over, transitioning to the spirit realm, that sometimes people don't want to leave their bodies and they stay, or they can even become attached to a living person because they're afraid to go into the light. And that's really, what really generally happens is we're guided towards light. There's this beautiful energy that kind of pulls us in to through, it's like a tunnel, sort of like a portal, and there's light beings there who are either spirit guides or deceased loved ones that are there to greet us and to bring us into the light, which is so healing. And it's like this relief and release, and now you're back. And usually if it's been a traumatic life, there's time of integration and solitary sort of healing that happens, almost like in a little cocoon or just a place away. That's certainly the case with suicides, which is a breaking of a soul contract, heartbreaking, because then you have to redo it all over again. And I don't mean to make light of that, because it's hard. A lot of people feel that there's no way out, and that's the only solution for them. But it's a heartbreaking choice, because then they see what they've done after, and they have to come to terms with having to do it again, to learn the lessons again that they set out to learn. Anyway, but if it's been a really hard life, maybe it was a traumatic death or just a lot of painful things happen, then that soul will go through a time of solitude and integration before rejoining their soul family. So anyway, I find it's something that we need to talk about more in our society is, how do we support a dying person and help comfort them, that it's not a thing to fear, and how do we let them go so they don't feel, that they need to stay with us and energetic and stay with their body, because that's what can happen is when people don't cross into the light, it's because, which is rare, it's because there's unfinished business here, or they don't believe that they're dead, or they feel that fear that they're going to go to hell or something, which is a religious false construct in my belief. So there's so many different things that we all as a society, as a culture, could benefit from talking about more and learning about more. And I'm so glad that we did that in the New Earth Collective gathering just the other night. I believe that we're moving into that as a culture, that in the New Earth sort of way of being, that we will be honoring people's transition into spirit realm. And you've completed your life here. Good job. Now you get to go back and rest and have fun and be with your soul group and do different learning activities and just heal. And it's just when I went into this place in the life between life regression that I experienced, I was just, tears were just flowing down my face, because I was like, this is my home. I miss it so much. And it was just, people are nice here to each other. This is a place where there's love. There's not all this conflict and division and fear. Earth is a really hard place to live, and especially now. But it's also a very exciting time, because we're learning so much, we're awakening so much, and we're moving into this beautiful age of Aquarius, of spiritual connection, of where we will be able to honor people transitioning to spirit and supporting them in the death process, which is really just letting go of a body that we don't need anymore. There's no more attachment to the body. We're like, oh, see ya. People, when we're done with our bodies, we're done. We're gone. And it's really us here, the ones who are left behind, that we can be angry. Why did you leave me here? I want to go with you. Don't leave me here on Earth. And how can we just know that we planned that with that person, if it's a family member especially, that was part of our learning, that they were going to exit, go to the spirit realm. I see this a lot with clients, that it comes up a lot in Akashic Records readings, that especially with a loved one who's been lost, that was part of the reason that they in their soul contract, that they died at a younger age than expected, maybe, is to help that loved one energetically connect to the spirit realm. So for instance, I've worked with a daughter recently whose mother transitioned over early or died younger than she wanted her to. And what came up was, well, you wouldn't have been interested, the masters and the Akashic Records were sharing with her, you wouldn't have been interested in spiritual stuff if you hadn't had the desire to connect with your mother in spirit, and that brought you closer to the spirit realm. So fascinating. There's so much for us to learn and do and talk about. What happens after we die, what's the spirit realm like, How do we help people who, the loved ones who are here and move through the grieving process? How do we support a dying person and not being afraid, but just being at peace for their next step of their soul growth? Because it's not the end; it's the next step. And I believe there will be a time when we will be connecting with spirits. Like, oh, here's my grandmother came to visit last night, and I had a nice conversation with her, and then the next day we'll meet with another deceased relative, and it will be normal instead of feared. Because once they know that we're afraid, that when they come to us as spirits, and I've had interesting things like that happen, if they sense that we're afraid, they go away and may not ever come back in that same form, and like materializing in front of our eyes, for instance, or through different ways they make themselves known, scent, through electromagnetic energy. Anyway. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I hope all of you, enjoy the beautiful summer day, which is here. I'm standing in front of another stream, beautiful, beautiful stream. And my dog's around here somewhere, and I'm about to head back up the other way, do some yoga before I do. But thanks for being here on this walk with me, and thanks for listening. Many blessings, much love.